Hey, what's up everybody? This is Oswork501 and today I want to go over the newest patch and information we have on Borderlands 3, and this post was just posted today, and there's a bunch of information on where they're going with patches that make me the most excited about this actual kind of, I guess, update for us, because there's not a lot actually in the hotfix like patch notes of this. But there's a ton of information at the end where the developers are trying to go with their patches, and it's probably the best information and news we've gotten since Borderlands 3 has released. So today we'll release an updated Borderlands 3 by 3 p.m. PDT that fixes a number of reported concerns. In addition, we'd like to outline our goals and patches and hot fixes in the coming weeks. But first, this week's patch notes and hot fixes. Also, there's a graphic here. I didn't even know consoles didn't have photo mode. They also get the Twitch extension. It is a bit weird that a lot of the like UI and stuff and menus seem to have been built for consoles and almost a port onto PC, but that a bunch of stuff like photo mode doesn't work. Don't really know why that is, but they're getting that today. Notes for patch 3: added support for Bloody Harvest, free limited time event that goes from October 24th to December 5th. During the event, the main menu will now become spooky when the micro patch is loaded and the event is available. Also, in a tweet, I think just the Gearbox official Twitter replying to somebody, 3 p.m. PDT is when everybody will guarantee to have it. It will be rolling out before then. I have no idea when before then is, so you can keep an eye out before 3 p.m. PDT time, because it'll probably be up for a lot of people before then. I didn't want to go over these stability changes. It's just some like bug fixes and stuff. A lot of these are also bug fixes, but some of these are a little bit more important. Console only, Mayhem mode is not available in true Vault Hunter mode on console. So basically what I heard was happening here was on consoles, after you beat normal mode and unlock Mayhem, you couldn't actually use Mayhem going into true Vault Hunter mode until you beat that too, I'm pretty sure. Which you could on PC, so that's good. That's being fixed. Added photo mode support for console, added EchoCast Twitch extension for console, added new Vault Hunter customization and trinkets. So that's something that's just new. And this isn't any specific, this is just across the game. I'm wondering if this is just the Halloween stuff or not, or if this is just adding new stuff. Added ability to specify Mayhem mode while matchmaking, adjusted the volume of the 2K and Gearbox logo intro movies. So this is when you first start the game, which I pretty much mute every time I start the game because they're so ridiculously loud. Even if you put them to like 25 out of 100 volume, it's still louder than normal 100 volume is. So thank God they fixed that. I don't know why every game in the world starts with their intros being ridiculously loud, like every single game. Addressed reported concern where some players were missing skill points. I did hear about this, where people were missing 1 to 2 skill points, which is pretty important to get fixed. Updated gore stump textures for consistency. PC only improved reliability of the voice chat system. PC only added a modification so typing in text no longer prevents players from fast traveling. A bunch of this other stuff really isn't as important to go over. Most of this stuff is just like bug fixes and stuff. You guys can go read this if you want to. A lot of this isn't really anything exciting. It's just some small bug fix stuff, a lot of quests, stuff like that. Notes for October 24 hotfix. As stated in the week's stream, this week's changes focus less on weapons and more on fixes across the game. We are gathering data, reading feedback, and working towards improving all aspects of the game. Please keep submitting bug reports. A big change, Flacker now consumes 1 ammo instead of 5. So I'm pretty sure this still makes Flacker 1 shot per reload, but I'm pretty sure what was happening before was the Flacker would consume 5, but you would still only have 1 in the magazine, I'm pretty sure. So it would use 4 out of your entire shotgun ammo, which is pretty bad, because that's one of the I guess only like silver linings for Flacker only having 1 shot per magazine is it now only uses 1 ammo. Some more bug fixes. You guys can look at these if you want to. Again, the only one that's I want to go over, include a modification so that Zane's Digiclone will no longer spawn into the cage in the Slaughter Star 3000, which was a basically red chest glitch farm that I did. So that's fixed. So now you'll have to do some other chest farms. I do have another video of one, but I'll be looking at more chest farms. I know for whatever reason, a lot of people like chest farms. I don't know, maybe it's a Borderlands thing, because in Borderlands 1, even for me, like the first actual like go to the main menu, go back in the game, and loot chests was like the first time you get to. I think that was Sanctuary in Borderlands 1. I don't even remember. There are a lot of notes to take in, and we're still hard at work addressing reported issues in Borderlands 3. But given that we're just a month out of Borderlands 3 launch, we like to take the opportunity to outline our plans for future updates, including some of the community's most frequent requested changes. There can always be unforeseen challenges when working on patches and hotfixes, so we'll keep you posted on more concrete release things as these updates continue to progress. Here's a look at some of these things that we're working to implement in future patches. Performance and stability. Game performance and stability continue to be our top priorities. The fruits of the labor will be released in our upcoming November patch with various improvements. Also, the November patch they talk about a lot, and it's a patch, I guess. Which, if you don't know, the difference between the patch and hotfixes, I guess, for Borderlands 3 is that hotfixes can be reverted while going offline, and that's because they're not as big as patches that they need to change much. It's usually just number tweaks or stuff like that, and updates cannot be done that way, and I'm not certain if updates also basically lock in all the other hotfixes so you can't revert those offline either. I'm not certain on that, but the November patch seems to be this big like 30-day patch that they were talking about with a ton of big changes and stuff like that. With varying improvements game-wide, we've also been hard at work at improving the game's stability, and more improvements in regard are expected to be included in the November patch. Performance and stability will continue to be an ongoing effort, with more fixes rolled out with each upcoming patch, so that's very good. That's specifically even more on console. I don't really have a ton of big issues on PC when it comes to like crashing or performance. I usually get like 80 plus frames in the game, so that's, I think, more based on console and lower end PCs, but that's really good. The game running smoother and being more stable is always going to be a good thing in any game. Okay, so now we have one of the most popular things, is the bank. Expanding the bank has been a more consistently requested feature by the community. We've heard you loud and clear, and the groundwork for expanding the bank has already started. The first of several planned expansions. So what they're saying here is across a bunch of different updates, they'll keep expanding the base update after update, which is definitely a good way to do it, especially since if they do it once and, you know, add a bunch more bank space, which you're going to do, and then have to work on more backend stuff to keep expanding it more, giving us a little bit at a time at least, which is more than a little bit, is definitely going to be really good. This is like one of the biggest issues with the game, in my opinion, especially for like endgame, is having 50 slots and like over 200 unique items. Where was I here? The first of several planned expansions will coincide with the release of the takedown at Malleone's Black Site. They've actually, I don't think I ever called it this, the takedown at Malleone's Black Site. I think it was always Malleone Takedown. So that's, I guess, more official of the name. I don't actually know where a Black Site would be. It's probably somewhere completely different that we haven't seen yet. Expect a significant bake expansion that will more than double the existing space. So more than double, I'm assuming 125 or 150. 110 or something would kind of be a little bit weird. So I'm assuming that, which is pretty massive in itself because that's a lot of increased bank space. Additional expansions to the bank will continue to be rolled out over future releases. So we're getting more than double. Like I said, probably 125 or 150, I would assume. And then more and more after that goes on. Even over 100 is a really good start. And getting more and more and more is really good, especially since we basically have an announcement that we're getting more loot, a bunch of new loot with the Malleone Takedown, which is closer down here. Dedicated loot pools for bosses. Several of you stated, I think it's a little more than several, just a few more than several, have stated a desire to find gear more easily in the game. To do that, we are updating the loot pools, the data that determines what in-game item drops, what in the game drops items basically. To ensure that more specific gear drops from bosses, that means you'll be able to go to a specific boss to get specific gear you're looking for. So this is very much wanted by pretty much everybody. The older Borderlands games, like especially Borderlands 2, pretty much like every named enemy did have a specific drop, and a lot of them had more than one specific drop, and even in a lot of the stuff that they had that was like a secondary specific drop or something also had random drops out in the world. So basically, if you wanted to go to this boss, you knew he had a chance to drop something that could just drop in the open world, but also specifically dropped from this boss as well. So you can still get those items and just from killing anything, you know, not specifically bosses, but anything out in the world. But you can also go to this one spot to specifically target that loot, which is a much better system for loot, pretty much in any loot-based game. We're working out which bosses get which gear right now, and expect this to be ready as part of the November patch as well. So I'm wondering if the November patch is something different than the takedown of Malleron's black side. It sounds like how they're talking about it, because they specifically said the takedown of Malleron's black side here. So I'm assuming the November patch is probably early in November, early to mid, and then mid to late-ish November. Did I say December? November is going to be the takedown of Malleron's black side, which also means that we're getting a lot of changes while the Bloody Harvest event is still going on, which is also going to be pretty nice, especially since the bank increase. We will get that before the end of the Bloody Harvest event, which means you can save more Bloody Harvest gear, which is also pretty good. Then we have character buffs. In the late stages of the game, when Mayhem Mode is active, we found in that player companions, Moses Ironbear, Flex Pets, and Zane's Digiclone / drone are reportedly not performing as well as we had expected. To address this, we're looking at how to adjust the damage according to the relevant skills and gear. The goal here is to make sure we have as many viable character builds as possible. So it's good news. They already talked about this, that all of these need massive buffs. Moses Ironbear literally needs a few, like, I would say a minimum a few 100% damage increase. Flex Pets could easily get a damage double to make them viable. They have some viable-ish builds, but that's only because they're super tanky, basically. Zane's Digiclone and Drone, he has some decent builds with those, but definitely those need to do more damage. So, more good changes. And this is something just completely new. Additional Mayhem levels and Mayhem 2.0. Mayhem Mode has been a fantastic addition to the Borderlands world. After receiving some great community feedback, we've been hard at work on a significant revamp that will ensure a host of improvements over several upcoming updates. The first update will be released as part of the takedown of Malleron's black side, and that includes the first new Mayhem level, Mayhem 4. So we are getting another Mayhem level, which is really good that we're getting it this soon as well. Hopefully they continue to just do more and more Mayhem levels, and that's kind of like the OP ranks, I would assume. Expect a significant challenge when it debuts, with tougher enemies that reward players with highly synergized character builds. So pretty much just stronger enemies. We don't know exactly what that will entail. A new batch of legendary gear will also drop while in Mayhem 4 to reward those players who are truly up for the challenge. So we're getting a bunch of new legendary items that only drop in Mayhem 4, which is also a very good change, because this makes something that's much more challenging to do, that makes the only way to get these new legendaries is to do the most challenging stuff in the game. This is an extremely good change. This, I think, especially with the takedown coming with that, this will basically massively improve the end game of the game, making, this will just massively improve the end game. I think it's one of the best changes outlined here. Longer term, we have plans to overhaul Mayhem Mode with more UI support, new Mayhem Modifiers, that change gameplay more dramatically. Mayhem playlists, new rewards, and additional levels of Mayhem to work through. We're excited about Mayhem 2.0, and we'll talk about it when we get closer to its release. So basically what they're saying here, with more UI support, I'm wondering what that means. I'm assuming just easier ways to see what effects you have, maybe some type of like debuff or buffs on specific targets or something to show you that they do have Mayhem modifiers, possibly. New Mayhem modifiers, which is good, that change gameplay more dramatically. I'm hoping this is some of the stuff like that the community, like on Reddit and forums, was talked about. That it's more not just, you know, you do less damage, or they do more damage, or they take less damage, or something like that. And it's more like, oh, when you have this modifier, a lot more of this specific, like a lot more Goliath spawn, or a lot more of this specific badass spawn, or something like that, that doesn't just blatantly make number changes, that make how the game actually plays out different. Mayhem playlists, which I'm assuming are going to be like an amount of chosen different things that have a set modifiers on them. So maybe like these will randomize daily or weekly or something, or maybe you can just randomize them yourself, and then you can choose from the different ones. I'm assuming the best thing this would be is if they had like a list of these that you could roll yourself, like re-roll them all or something, like load a new set of them, and then you could just choose from them. And something in game would be really good. So maybe you have to like go to Sanctuary or do it everywhere would be better, where there's basically just a list of the different Mayhem modifiers, like grouping of them, and you can just keep loading them on game to get the ones you want, pretty much. This would be much better, because pretty much what people do now is just log out and log back in to get a new modifier, and that's much worse. And if people are going to do that, they might as well make a system so you're able to do that much easier, so you can actually just play the game more. New rewards, which is very good. And additional levels of Mayhem to work through, which is also very good. Them saying this after already telling us about Mayhem 4 means that most likely we're going to be getting Mayhem levels on a pretty regular basis, which is very good. That'll actually make the end game much more difficult and much more, you know, just engaging overall. Vending machines. So basically they're airdropping vending machines in some more places across multiple maps. Expect new ammo and health vending machines outside a few boss arenas, and a few in some of the larger environments. And they're adding to Athena's, Alice HQ, Skybowl 27, Lecture City, Jacob's Estate, Voracious Canopy, Tan Zadir Runes, and the Pyre of Stars. So they're basically just adding vending machines, all those. Very good change. Skippable cinematics. We're currently investigating the best way to approach letting players skip cutscenes. This is much easier said than done. Under the hood, the game may activate critical events based on the cinematics. In order to make sure mission progress isn't negatively impacted, we need to inspect each cinematic and make sure those events will work correctly. We have a few ideas on how to tackle the problem and expect to have a solution soon. Very good. Skipping cinematics is absolutely the worst part about replaying new campaign run-throughs. This will also be super nice when we have more DLC and you say want to do multiple of that, which will probably have cutscenes. Not being able to skip those will also suck. Target dummy. This is a very good change too. Need an easier way to test your gear. We're going to add a target dummy to the shooting range on Sanctuary 3. We feel this is the best location since your bank is also on the ship. This way you can manage and test your builds on Sanctuary 3 without having to travel anywhere else. You can expect this sometime in December. So that's very good. It is in December, but it's great that we know we're getting it. This is also going to make testing if stuff actually works, like if certain talents actually work, how they work, how different weapons work, all that type of stuff. That's going to be massive. And also, I'm pretty sure once you go to Sanctuary 3, even if you have Mayhem on, there's no modifiers with that, which will make it extremely good for testing, because you won't have to worry about modifiers. You'll still have the increases of health and armor and all that stuff that you have for Mayhem modes, but you won't have to worry about any modifiers. The future, the list above is only a high-level look at what some of our teams are working on. Stay tuned as we continue to add more information and additions to the list. We here at Gearbox are excited about where Borderlands 3 is headed, and we look forward to showing you all the content that's still to come. So, very good changes. This is easily the best patch notes, even though a lot of it is just upcoming stuff we've seen. If this stuff is continuously implemented like they're saying it will be with new content, it shows that once a lot of this new stuff and changes are made, the game will have a really strong end game and overall game life while they can just continue to add more and more content. So overall, super excited about a lot of this stuff. Subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about these patch notes, all the upcoming changes, and thanks for watching.